go live?
Yeah, because it doesn't capture
Because
the
of the way you
audio.
record, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you're recording on your end.
No.
Oh, okay. So we just missed that wife comment.
Yes.
Oh,
No.
we just got it now.
Okay.
But the last one I did was pretty good. I just cut out Steve Joel's weird like noise that he was doing, and I used part of that as the cold open instead.
That should be the cold open. I cut out Steve Joel's weird noise he was doing as if like he was purposely making noises. Just like, just making noise to the mic or something.
All right. Well, we are now live. Let's see if we can get a sound check from anybody who's watching this shenanigans here. Anybody watching, give us a sound check. Say something, Phil. Say something, Nick.
Void.
Oh, I should have told my friends to. I'm on a Warhammer podcast.
Come helping heckle you.
Yeah, totally. Be the first one.
Okay.
You're not doubled. Your voice isn't doubled again, Darren, like last time.
No, I've turned off all the inputs. Yeah. All right. Let's have dramatic pause for Francois. Welcome everybody to CanHammer Podcast, episode 208. And tonight we are going to be talking about Crusade, which is something I didn't think we'd ever be talking about, but here we are. I guess it's just gotten that boring.
COVID.
It's kind of like when you're like, we should bring in someone else into the relationship. Let's spice things up a bit. Role play. Yeah.
So we have
Watch Francois get jealous. Man.
we have our usual hosts, Nick and Francois. Welcome, guys.
Hey.
And we have
Hello.
special guests, Phil, who you may recognize from such videos as Gloomspike Gits versus Flesh Eater Courts, Necrons versus Custodes Part 1, and Necrons versus Custodes Part 2. Welcome, Phil.
Glad to be here.
Phil, have you actually been on the cast before? I cannot remember.
I don't know. I feel like we did one for is it Shadespire? Like way back when we might have done one.
Yes. Yes.
I feel like we talked about that when there's a brief moment where we bought all the Shadespire stuff and then,
Every single model and card.
and then went, we can't keep doing
And then sold it all for $50. Okay, well, Phil, people know Phil from the channel. We play regularly, and so he is part of our Crusade group, and we will be talking about our upcoming Crusade content that we are going to try and produce, and basically try something new, which is so let's start with that. Why did we decide to do Crusade? Whose idea was it? Was it my idea?
It was your idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, was that your idea? I don't know.
It must have come out of a moment of boredom and insanity. No,
A
but
moment of desperation.
Yeah.
well, you know what? Like, I wanted,
it was like
I wanted an excuse to like start a new army, basically.
yes.
Do you need excuses for
Without
that?
the pressure of having to paint 2,000 points like straight up. You know that,
Fair
especially when that 2,000 points is like 300 models. You know, so I just that was the main excuse, and the other excuse is like it's something different, and it's Crusade seems like the people I've talked to seems really fun, and you don't have to take it too seriously, and it seems like they're really supporting it. Like there's supplements released just for Crusade. Every book has Crusade stuff in it. So it's really like a supported way of playing as opposed to other ways of playing 40K, which are not pretty much supported. So I guess those were the reasons. Why do you guys decide to join me on it?
Well, jokes aside, everyone I've talked to who has played Crusade has said great things about it. It seems like an enjoyable game system. Not particularly balanced, but that's not what we're looking for. It's just a good way to build a new army or expand on an existing one and play some low stakes beer hammer with friends. And the games are also faster because they're 25 power levels to start, which is very tiny, and it seems like a fun thing to try.
Yeah. So so we decided to get together and play, locally. At the time we weren't sure what COVID is going to be doing, so we don't really know when we're going to be starting, and we didn't want to have too many people, but we wanted to have I think 4 is a good number, and we want people who we trust from COVID precautions points of view, in case things are not as rosy as everybody thinks. And so I guess that's why we ended up having this idea. And actually, now that we've been talking about it, I think it's going to be super fun.
Yeah, it's amazing. It flexes a different set of 40K muscles. I mean, I kind of like, I was looking for an excuse to get back into it. I've kind of, dovetailed in and out of 40K over the years, and playing the sort of straight up competitive match play style tournament lists. Like I like doing that, but this was kind of like a new take on it, and it also lets you, I guess, not like there's like I think we all have like that instinct to just read a book, pick what makes the most mathematical sense, what is the strongest, what plays the mission the best, and then kind of do that. Whereas I think with this, like instantly, I just decided, I just kind of said, well, I'm going to do AdMech, and I want to, use like, rust stalkers or things that I'd never seen before. But now apparently those are good.
Yeah, that's a bad example.
Now apparently they're really.
Back when you chose to paint the unit, they were not.
Yeah, I literally bought like all the AdMech stuff I bought was like I was trying to get all like the weird stuff no one took. And then, lo and behold,
now it's all good.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
hey, the thing that I was accidentally going to do for this is going to be like, broken as.
Congratulations to Phil for winning the Crusade campaign.
But yeah, it was great. So when Darren mentioned, let's do this, and I hadn't started a new 40K army in a while. Like I have a lot of 40K armies, but I was looking at an excuse to start AdMech. I like the models, and then I was like, yeah, I'm like, you need motivation. I couldn't, like, I've tried to paint over, the lockdowns and stuff, but without a game to kind of look forward to, like, it just no motivation. Put paint on.
It's been very difficult to motivate to paint for sure. I've been working on this 10, whatever, not aberrants, whatever they're called. I don't even know what they're called. Acolytes. I've been working on these 10 guys for like a month now. But, okay. We're going to talk about Hoggy Progress because that obviously links in with Crusade. But before that, I want to give people some updates about the channel, which is closely linked to my basement demolition, which is happening sometime in the next 4 weeks. So it's pretty crazy how fast that's happening. I got to clear this entire space out in the next 3 weeks, which means that I will not be hosting games at my house, but we're hoping to at least film content. Nick is going to start streaming some paint stuff. In fact, your first stream is tomorrow night, right, Nick?
That's right. Yep. 7 p.m. Eastern.
Cool.
Time.
And then if we can't stream the Crusade, we'll try and film some content and post it up. And so we're going to try and keep things going as much as possible. And when my basement returns, it's going to be awesome. But for now, the basement is getting wrecked, and Hobby is going to have to move to the veranda. So anyway, stay tuned. There might be some small gaps in programming, but we're going to try and keep going as much as we can. Okay, don't want to spend too much time talking about demolition. So when we came up with this idea, we were supposed to pick armies that we didn't have or that we wanted excuse to paint. So let's go over what armies we're going to play. Maybe you can we're supposed to come up with backstories and like name your units and stuff, because these units earn points and get like promoted and get upgrades. And can they permanently die? I can't remember. Is that a thing?
They get crippled, like they get battle scars.
Oh.
Like when you like, and it's this. I mean, this whole thing is amazing. But yeah, they get these they get battle scars. So if your unit gets wiped out at the end of the game, you roll the dice. If you roll a 1, you have a choice between giving them a scar or losing experience points.
Wow!
So you can have like this unit can kind of get mangled over time, which is kind of
still has an arm.
Yeah.
So my shitty unit could get even shittier.
They can get worse. But yeah, you can. I don't. It's not like Blood Bowl. I don't think there's like an actual like you roll a dice and the unit dies completely. But they can get worse. So,
okay, that would be a feel bad. You just like painted this unit and now you can't use it because it's dead.
Do you not remember Mordheim, where you'd paint up this superhero and then he'd lose a leg and an arm, one eye, but then he'd go frenzied. Go frenzied. I remember my buddy and I used to play that. We were kids. And he'd actually model it. So he had the Skaven model, missing a leg, missing an arm, but it somehow had like 1 million attacks because it got frenzied. It was crazy.
I did that with Blood Bowl. We had we ran a Blood Bowl league years ago, and I had a Skaven team. and then one of my blitzers died in one of the games after I painted him. So basically I brought him back home. I kind of like changed his fur green to make him look like a zombie and kind of like zombied him up. And then I rehired him, but as his corpse. So this guy, he came back, but he was all like, yeah, just like, so it was still the same guy, just they kind of reanimated him and brought him back. And that's like, I don't know, giving like an incentive for games. And
hey, Frank. Hey, guys, does Frank look weird to you? Like, there's something different.
he's bad, but he's... Yeah,
so we were just talking whether we were going to have an overarching narrative that connected our four armies and the games that we're playing. And so we decided we've nominated Phil as the resident screenwriter about to win an Oscar producer to come up with said narrative and let us know, and we'll plug ourselves in.
Yeah, well, I mean, Darren, you were doing a good job of like just like, it's like it's kind of Night at the Improv, right? Like you set up like your whole army had this like penal colony Alien 3 sort of vibe, and then we kind of just fit all of our factions. We can kind of like all line them up there, and then just figure out reasons for being where they are, and then you just kind of like your story will progress as it goes. Like we'll basically find out what the story is as like games happen, right? Like, and I think that's what's going to be really interesting about it, is like you don't know what the overarching narrative is until we play a bunch of games, and then you start to see the path. I'll piece things together, and we'll kind of lay breadcrumbs to inspire everybody, because creativity is kind of it's not as hard as people think it is. It's just gotta, read the clues
yeah. Good. No, I was going to say, since Darren started this narrative idea, perhaps we should explain to our listeners what army Darren is playing first. Just make it very
Okay, should I go first? Okay, I was going to let Phil go first.
I think you should.
Okay, I'll go first. So I am playing an army that I've now had for like over a year in gray plastic.
More than a year.
More than a year. Since before last Charity Hammer. No, right after Charity Hammer. I bought the 9, whatever those things are called, because of Charity Hammer.
Ridge Runners.
Yeah, I bought them because of Charity Hammer. So yeah, it's Gene Stealer Cult. I'm playing Gene Stealer Cult for some reason. God help me. Which, as I said, is an army with like, I have like 300 models, and I ain't gonna paint 300 models just to play start playing games. But I can certainly paint a few units. That's no problem. So my army is Gene Stealer Cults. We're playing on hard mode with, I just saw 3 CP. My army being possibly one of the most CP intensive and dependent armies in the game, but we'll see how it goes. And so the whole shtick about my army, because I really like that GW bright orange gray color scheme, like when they like first introduced Gene Stealer Cult army, and it really reminds me of like mining colony. I guess that's basically their thing, right? So it's basically penal mining colony TSE 889 in some reach of the galaxy. I don't know where. I haven't gotten that far in the narrative, but so I'm painting them like prisoners. So they got prison orange on all the cloth. They've got that light gray color. It's going to be the first army that I actually use weathering on, because I usually hate weathering, but I think it kind of fits. These guys are all like, they're mining, there's dust everywhere, and even the loadouts I've picked to be like all the mining stuff, as opposed to like the lasers. I've picked all the drills and the saws, and everybody's got like explosives, and yeah, so that's kind of the theme. I've got the king below, who is the patriarch. He's running the show, and then I've got his cousin, the Mr. John Vane, the Kellermorph. John Vane. Then I've got Acolyte. Hey, that's my level of creativity, man. Then I've got the Acolyte. Unit number 1 is the PMC 889 dig team number 1 with saws, and then the dig team number 2's got drills, and then the blast team is nicknamed Fire in the Hole, and that's the mortar team. And then I've got Big Bertha, their truck that they ride around in, and I've got Quesa, she's the queen, she's the jackal She's like formerly like ex-wife of like the now patriarch, I guess. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works, but and then we've got the two drill teams. This is going up to 50 power level now, so I've got a list for 50 power level, and I just take half of them. And I've got two neophyte teams, which are the drill teams, and then I've got the Sanctus is just known as the Black Lance. And then I've got the Jackals, who are the Dusty Riders. And those are the biker dudes who are going to be like super dusty. And then I've got the other Goliath truck for the second to go up to 50 power level. And that's called Boris the Slow. And that's 50 PL. It's not a lot. It's like not even 10 units, which... for Gene Stealer Cult seems like too few. But
remember, the missions are different too,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that's what's cool about Crusade. I don't know if you've looked at the missions, but your army should work at, like there's no secondaries. There's a lot less stuff to be worrying about. So it's kind of interesting that they might just be better in Crusade.
yeah, I think it's going to be super fun. I had this army. I've never played it. Oh, I think I played it once. Did I play it once against you, Francois? I can't remember. I don't even think I...
No,
I never played it, yeah. And obviously, it's got that, and it's got the Greater Good book, and so there's a lot of stuff going on. And luckily, I won't be able to use most of it because I have only 3 CP. So I think it'll be super fun.
For now. There's a thing that you can give your... there's a perk that you can give your boss, I think, when you get enough experience where you can... I think your warlord generates 2 extra CP for you. But if it dies, you lose 2 CP.
Yeah, so, this is like what the average guy looks like. If I'm showing on video if you're listening. But basically, it's got the blue, the orange jumpsuit, and then like, white armor. Thank you, Pro Acro Ivory. What a great color. Thank you, Nick. And you know why I also liked Gene Stealer Cult that really speaks to me? I love Gene Stealer Purple. That color... that GW color is a really nice purple. It's one of my favorite GW colors.
It's a good purple.
Yeah, it's a great purple. And so there we go.
Sweet.
That's my army. And so I guess you guys have de facto chosen the mining colony / planet as the setting.
It'll be our battleground, yeah. It seemed to make sense because you've got this, like, you've got your dudes are in there. They've been abandoned by society or galactic civil whatever order.
Yeah, and if we play at my place, I have a ton of like mining penal colony like terrain, like Mechanicus terrain and Badlands terrain, so we can actually make boards that will look like we're on a penal mining colony.
Well, it's cool if the first couple of games are on the surface, and then eventually you start going into like the underground tunnels and stuff, and we'll have like like,
does anyone have the Gene Stealer Cult terrain, that drill?
No.
That would be cool.
Love that
would
one.
be cool.
Sweet.
And it feels like we should grab some rocks and stones and just scatter it across the table.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I have that GameMat.eu Badlands set, and I also bought the kind of recent add-on that they did where it's the same base color of rock, but it's like a base built into the rock. So it's like bunkers into these red-toned rocks, and I also have the mat that's the same color, so it looks like a mining colony.
That's cool.
Wow.
That's cool.
Oh, that's cool. That's
okay,
neat.
look at us. Look
right
at
to
us
be.
forging all this narrative.
Forging it really hard. Yeah, for sure. We're nerds. Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay, who wants to go next? Phil, why don't you go next? What army are you playing?
Yeah. So I use this as an excuse to start my Adeptus Mechanicus army, which I've had the models for lying around on my desk for like the last year. Same thing. I only had the Dominus, which is this. I had the Dominus I picked up. I think Francois, you gave me this Dominus. Right? I bought it off of you. And then I had bought a unit of sterilizers like that I just started building. I had built and then never painted them. But so now I'm doing my Adeptus Mechanicus, and they're from Forge World Phosphoros with a tech priest Dominus Ionis Thorium, and their deal is that they're basically these like they're all painted like camera stuff, but they're painted like radioactive green. So my whole shtick was that I was gonna just do all the radiation weapons and radiation everything, like just go like lean and heavy. I think there's some of the vanguards have these radium carbines, so the whole theme was there were these irradiated sort of zealots that are hunting for arcane and forbidden technology and stuff, and their tech priest guy kind of went a bit rogue within the the echelons of their mechanicum whatever thing. And then they found out that this penal colony thing, which was abandoned, like through some data servers that they dug through, they found out that the whole thing was powered by basically this, large scale nuclear super reactor thing. So they're all about trying to find out what technology they have, what's technologies dug deep under the ground, and what did they find, and is the thing maybe more than just a penal colony? Was it a research installation? Was it something else? So my dudes are all about digging in there, kind of crushing whoever's in their way so that they can get to that sweet radioactive core at the middle of this penal colony thing.
Little do they know that it's produced genetic mutation and connection to the hive mind.
Yeah. Or is there? Yeah, that's kind of like, that was like the thing. And because I didn't have a book that was up to date, I didn't bother like listing out my power level stuff. So basically I just, whatever I have is what I'm going to play. So my army is going to be the Dominus. I've got 5 sterilizers. It's going to be essentially that first 25 power level thing is going to be their scouting force. So it'll be like, one of those, the flatbed trucks there, the ones with the like the D-Day Normandy lander craft.
Oh, the Scorpius Dune Riders.
Yes, so it'll be a Dune Rider. I think I have I can fit 10 Vanguard guys, 5 sterilizers, and with the other thing I have is like the Chicken Walker thing.
Oh,
with
those are really good now.
Yeah, but I'm using it with the autocannon, which I don't know if the last cannon is like the better or whatever.
The last cannon is better.
Yeah. Well, I will magnetize it, so then when we eventually shift back to competitive.
When we shift to competitive, yeah, he's gonna be like last cannon.
So yeah, but I didn't know this before doing the list, but apparently now there's actually like in their custom forge worlds that you can build, there's like a radiation one that you can do. So I was like, oh sweet, I'll do that. And then I was listening to Auspex Tactics on YouTube today, and apparently like you can do some insane like kind of game breaking things with the with like the radiation thing. Like you just 20 Vanguard guys and they like wound on like 4s automatically and like all kinds of insanity. But so that's by accident. I've stumbled into this.
Power game.
Yeah, Phil again. Here he is.
Yeah, you seem to be a lot like Francois falling into these meta armies by accident.
So and then the rest, like I just like ordered a bunch of stuff. So I have like sulfur hounds that I want to build and like these infiltrators. So like I think my army is going to be no big robots, no like servitors. I think it's just like they're a scouting.
Do you
force.
have any of the robots?
I don't know. I have.
You're now the proud owner of 1.5, maybe 2 robots, depending on how good you are at rescuing models.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, because I bought robots. They're like discount, whatever. It was a new box, but I didn't pay much for it. And I tried to make this cool Death Guard Demon Prince, but ask François, it was the most ridiculous looking, silly. It was the worst.
Yeah, it was the worst.
It was just the worst Demon Prince. And anyway, so I ripped off all the chaos pieces minus the sword, and I gave up on that project. I've been trying to give them away, and I was like, wait, I forgot. Phil has AdMech now. So when we play, I will give them to you. You can rescue the one I tried to, convert to chaos, but resisted.
Well, there you go. Maybe then my AdMech guys are going to find like a couple of robots in the scrap heap of the penal colony, and then they'll rescue them. And they'll be like, "I've learned how to love."
And actually, like tomorrow, Phil, I'm bringing you 15 Vanguard Rangers or whatever they're called. I don't know what they're called.
Oh,
because I don't need them anymore. I had them in the Rusty 17 days, and two whatever the characters are, the little characters. I don't know what they're called.
Sure. So
you can have those.
I'm gonna I'll start listing that out, like the army. But I think a lot of it is just like I'm piecing together an army over time, and yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it all kind of pans out. So.
Yeah. All right, that sounds good. Okay, who wants to go next, Francois or Nick?
Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, okay, sure. Typical kid that didn't do his homework. So,
what Crusade? What?
Crusade, yeah. What is Crusade? No, I like the opportunity because actually, to me, even though I really play just competitive 40K right now, there's still that like in the back of my head, the narrative going on in my head. Even when I'm playing competitive games, I'm like, oh, I want things to happen because it's cool narratively. So now that we're actually doing this is fun. We're actually can
Can
commit
you
to a
fill
narrative.
this charge just for my narrative? Thanks.
Yeah, please. If you go ahead and lose for my narrative, that would be
You
great.
see, in my mind, it says that you lose this game. So
Yeah, we're just gonna have to stick to the script. All right. So yeah, anybody that's listened to this cast in the last little while, I blame Darren for my lack of self-control. He had some Space Wolves. I bought them, and then later bought like way too much Space Wolves because of those for some reason. So I need an excuse to build them and paint them. And Crusade's a good time to like throw a couple units together, not commit to a big army right away. And similarly, like anything, I have to bring this back to Thousand Suns somehow. So, yes,
there's 1,000 Space Wolves.
My narrative will be there's this Thunder Wolf Lord, and he's got some buddies that went wolfing. And now the flesh change was a common problem for the Thousand Suns. It's why they all turned to dust, because Airman tried to fix that. So this Wolf Lord heard that Airman might know how to reverse this for his buddies. So he heard on this penal colony that there's whatever this cult uprising. So they're considering this heretical, gesture where they're going to go there and try to liaise with this cult because he thinks they have information on the location of Armon. And so he might, these Space Wolves might come into contact with some Imperials like the AdMech and might realize that they have to commit atrocities against the Imperium to save their friends or whatever. I'm not a writer, okay? So just bear with me on this.
You've laid all the groundwork. And there's pipe there because, these Gene Stealer guys are obviously all mutations too, right? So there's got to be a mutation thing. So maybe, this facility was it is a genetic mutation facility. Well, it's like we're leaping to maybe the twist. That's what.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
For the
exactly.
final battle, we'll just put Harriman in the middle of the thing.
Yeah,
That's right.
We just get an Ahriman, and when you get to the deepest levels of the thing, he opens the door, and Ahriman's there, and he's got little test tubes, and
He's like, "Oh, you found me!" Yeah,
expecting you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I've been reading 2 separate books at the same time right now: Ahriman Exile and the Magnus Primarch book for the Horus Heresy. So I'm just knee deep. I'd play Thousand Suns, but they don't have a book. So anyway, so that's it. So I have some of the Space Wolves painted, and I was flipping through the book power level. I think I get a Wolf Lord, a unit of Wolfen and a unit of Thundercap, and that's my army because they're all super power level.
Well, the stuff I give you was a lot of power level.
Yeah. I don't actually need to paint anything actually, but I mean, I will. I think work on because I ordered all kinds of bits, and then I had François 3D print me a ton of bits.
Yeah, how many shields did you have me print? 35 or
30, 40, because I didn't want to run out. So I was just print me all of the shields.
All of the shields.
And axes. Yeah, and then I ordered from Poland helmets, and I ordered from Shapeways different helmets. Anyway, so yeah, it's going to be somewhat converted Space Wolf. So I might throw in some Vanguard or I don't know. Some Blade Guard. I have no idea. Whatever Space Wolves have.
At least somebody plays those models because I got those models a long time ago. They were commissioned by a guy in Australia, and I can't even remember who that was. They're actually fairly nicely painted, and I played one game with them, maybe one game at FDB with them, and then the only other game I played with them was at the beginning of, it might have been 7th, or might have been beginning of 8th, at that little RTT at in Gatineau, where I ran 15 Wolfen inside of Mastodon.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah,
I was there.
and that was the only time I played with those Wolfen, and that was super fun. But yeah, so I'm glad somebody's making use of them because they've been sitting in my basement forever.
Well, I remember when you bought them, and I was like, man, those look good. And I like Space Wolves because it's the part of the classic Thousand Suns versus Space Wolves story arc. So anyways, I was like, you're basically giving them away. So I'm gonna.
Yeah, it's all custom battle foam and everything, right? So it's here, somebody make use of these, or they're gonna get demolished with my basement.
Yeah.
All right, Francois. Last but probably not least.
Hopefully
The
not. Least.
Drukhari.
We'll see.
Can
The
you guess
Drukhari.
what army he's going to? Yeah. Oh.
Well, I like Nick. I also blame Darren for my lack of self-control, and because I bought an army from Darren as well. I bought the Drukhari army, but Darren's army was very complete when it comes to Cabal and Coven. So we have all the basic stuff for all those two kind of wings of the Drukhari army, but the Drukhari army as a third component to it, they're really like three armies in a single book, and there's no witch cult in that army that I bought. And so I decided that this Crusade would be a great opportunity to complete the army by buying, building, and painting some witches. And by that I mean actual witches, but also Hellions and Reavers. They're all part of the witch cult. And I've bought some used, some new. I managed to find a bunch of Hellions and Reavers all over the place. I've assembled most of it. I've not started painting yet, but that's what the Crusade army is for. And I'm not going to use any Cabal or Coven models for the Crusade. It's going to be pure Witch Cult. Cool. And so my kind of headcanon for this is that this is a down on their luck Witch Cult that has been kind of cast out of Cormorant. And they want to come back and rebuild their fortunes, but for that they need slaves for the pit, right? For the arena. And they decided to go to a very inhospitable place to find hardy slaves that would make good fighters for the arena. And where to find better fighters than a penal mining colony, except when they got there, they found some surprises. So that's how my witch cult is going to fit into the grander narrative.
So you probably want me to play some aberrants so you can get some beefy slaves.
Those would make great pit slaves.
Beefy slaves.
Yeah. Perfect. Now, I've not gone quite as far as Darren. I don't have a list yet. I don't have names or units kind of set up yet. I've looked at the Drukhari Codex, and there's actually some really neat stuff for Crusade in the Codex itself. The newer codexes, they all have a Crusade section in there that give you like special objectives for Crusade and extra little buffs and warlord trait, and they're all really cool and fluffy. So if you're playing Crusade with a new book, you get all this extra stuff on top. So I'm going to look at that, but my army is going to be like fast witch cult. So lots of Hellions, because I think Hellions look super cool. Like they're basically dudes on overboards with spears. Like what's cooler than that? They're probably my favorite model in the Drukhari range, the Hellions, and then Reaver jet bikes, because jet bikes are cool. And then I'm going to play some fully upgraded unit of witches with all the special weapons. They have all these cool stuff like the razor flails and the hydra gauntlets and the nets and the impalers, all those special weapons that are super unwieldy to play when you're actually going through a big game of 40k. But it makes sense for Crusade that they have all these special weapons in there.
Yeah. So I'm glad somebody's playing that army. I played that army a bit, and obviously Sparkles took that army with great success at the team tournament that we won. But it was really focused at the time on Cabal and Prophets, because that was what Drukhari was all about. And I had no Witch Cult. And a couple of times, and my plan was that if Witch Cults got good, I would just use Daughters of Cain, because I had a massive Daughters of Cain army, and those models kind of look the same. But then I sold my Daughters of Cain army. So then I'm like, the book come out, I'm like, I don't really want to get all that stuff.
And I also did, but I don't know if I'm going to include it in Crusade list because it's a big model. It might just skew the game a bit too much, but I did buy a Void Raven Bomber because it's the coolest looking plane in 40k. I think it's massive. And
the Archaeopters are the coolest.
The Archaeopters look derpy as hell.
Yeah, I don't like them at all.
The Void Raven Bomber is this massive thing. You know what it reminds me of? I don't know if we're all the same age, so you probably remember this, but back when I was a kid, we had these G.I. Joe toys that I'm sure we all had. And one year, my parents went away on holiday, leaving us with my grandparents. They went to, I don't know, Bermuda or something. And to placate us kids, they bought us G.I. Joe planes, like as toys to leave us to play with during the week with my grandparents. Except they made a big mistake because they bought one G.I. Joe plane and one Cobra bomber. Now, in hindsight, the Cobra plane is actually much cooler than the G.I. Joe plane. I still remember what they look like. And in fact, the Cobra plane looks a bit like a Void Raven Bomber, which is where the story is going. But my brother and I had the biggest fight you could imagine for who was going to get the good guy plane, the G.I. Joe plane. And so much so that my parents, when they returned, had to buy a second G.I. Joe plane. So we just had our own.
Who won that fight?
Well, both of us, since we ended up with a plane each.
There you go, kids. Just complain until your parents cave. That's what we do. All
Until your parents feel
Yeah.
bad because they went to Bermuda without you and buy you a G.I. Joe plane. Mom, if you're listening, I've forgiven you.
That's the advice from tired millennial parents. Your parents will cave in.
Oh man, my favorite G.I. Joe plane was the Warthog one.
Oh, yeah. That was a good
That
one.
was cool because it basically just looked like a Warthog, which is a pretty cool plane. But I don't remember what that Cobra bomber looked like.
It basically looked like a black, stuff U2 spy plane.
Yeah.
I had, so just to take a complete stupid tangent into G.I. Joe, I had that stupid Cobra vehicle that had two heads to it that split sideways. Do you guys
Yes.
remember that? And it just kind of splits and then just like guns in them. And I'm like, this is like the world's stupidest vehicle now, but it was so cool back in the day.
Yeah. Love it.
My mom sold them all because they were too violent.
After having
Eventually.
bought them all. Yeah.
Well, so after my
Check
brother
hard.
and I grew up, when we had kids, she kept all of our childhood toys except those because she felt, with, I guess, in hindsight, 20 years removed, she realized that maybe those toys were too violent. And so she kept all the Legos and all the Playmobiles, and my kids have played with all that stuff, but the G.I. Joe stuff she got rid of.
And
That's
yet your
what
house
a
is-
university professor. Where did his parents go wrong?
And your basement is full of, in the future there is only
Yeah.
basically it's like G.I. Joe if you gave it a lot of meth is kind of 40K. So like,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
To be fair, at the time, my parents were not great fans of Warhammer, but giving them credit, they saw that I liked it and encouraged me. But I remember at the time, my mom looking at this stuff and going, "Are you sure?"
Don't worry about it. All the John Blanche art or whatever. It's like all this
Well, exactly,
protest
'cause I started-
flesh peeling. Yeah.
I mean, I was a teenager by then, but I started in the early '90s. That would have been Fantasy Third and 40K Second Edition. But that stuff, there was a lot of grim in the dark in the art for the books because they were all like, the stuff you're talking about, the black and white. Like,
Yeah.
I can still picture the Golden Throne. It just looks really effed up.
Yeah.
So let's talk for a second about inevitably when we expand to 50 PL, maybe up to 75 PL. What's like one or two units that you're hoping to add to the army?
Avoid Raven Bomber.
Yes. Okay. How about
Me would be Vanguard vets because I've got this whole setup to convert them. So I'm going to be using Reaver bodies. I got jetpacks. I got an extra box of Wolfen to use the claws, and I bought these Reaver heads, but they're in the shape of a wolf head from Shapeways. So yeah, they're really gonna fit the Wolf Guard theme, and maybe some Blade Guard because I got them like a very Viking themed kind of set of shields and axes and helmets. So, anyways, everything that I have that's gonna be themed, I'd like to play. So the Vanguard vets and probably the Blade Guard. Yeah.
cool. Phil, how about you?
I was really stoked about playing the little chicken walkers because I've always liked them, but now that I guess they're good, I don't want them less. I think my Sulphur Hounds. I think I want to do I always like the Sulphur Hounds with the guys with the two pistols, just riding bareback. So I want to just get a bunch of those, just a massive unit of Sulphur Hounds and give them a cool name, and then try to because you keep stats of how many units you've killed and all your heroic deeds, and I want to make sure that they're probably gonna suck and die all the time, but I really want them to be the best.
Do they still roll? If you still roll a 6 to wound, do they do mortal wound still? Is that
No
still
idea.
a thing?
I haven't looked at the book. I don't. The other ones were cool because you could dart them away from combat and stuff when people charge
Yeah.
you.
They also had a rule. They also had a rule where you could target characters, regardless of lookout, sir. And on 6s to wound, you did a mortal wound. So I remember one time I almost lost Armand. He just walked up and just pumped a bunch of shots, and took 4 wounds on Aramon. I was like, oh.
Yeah,
I
those
mean,
are the Ranger version. I think I don't know. What I think
okay.
the other ones have like a flamer attack, and I think that like their little dogs breathe fire or something.
Yeah.
So they're just like close combat.
Now,
pistol.
as of recording, none of us have yet looked at the new AdMech book, so don't take anything these two are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they do this, and
Yeah.
Yeah, the best, and they will go 48 inches.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Robots have 7 attacks each, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay.
That's good.
So
The rad thing.
my idea was, as the games go on and the campaign moves deeper into the planet, that you guys start to encounter more and more mutated forms. So now you're getting like the humanoid guys. You still kind of look human, whatever they call the tier 3 or tier 4 or whatever. There's like levels or something, right? And then as you get deeper, you're going to encounter like aberrants who are like super mutated. And then when you get even deeper, I'm hoping I'll have enough power level for like a big mass of pure strains.
Nice.
And then if we get
So the deeper you go, the more arms there are.
more arms,
Yeah.
the more crazy. And then finally, if we get there with enough power level, the hive mind has been called and maybe a swarm lord will turn up.
Cool.
But
That'd be nice.
The final boss.
final boss, yeah.
Yeah, that's neat. I like that.
Yeah, but I do definitely want to get like a big unit of pure strains. Because I have 120 of them for some reason, and I think that would be cool to be like swarmed on like a little board, like just all these things coming forward. It's kind of cool.
Very cool.
I also really just like the guy who swings the stop sign. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And when I get around to painting him, I'm gonna actually like model like a stop sign that says stop on it.
The galaxy's most powerful stop sign.
And actually, those aberrants, they're not good right now in competitive 40k because of their point cost. But power level hasn't changed, so they're actually probably quite competitive in Crusade.
Yeah, exactly. It's just wrecking face with them because GW hasn't cared about power level since the beginning of 8th edition.
Yeah. They just kind of left it.
Except every once in a while, they'll sneak in a stratagem where you can do this if your unit is under X power level, and then everyone has to flip through their book to figure out what power level this unit actually is, because no one knows.
Yeah. So that'll be cool. I got all, and I have 9 Ridge Runners, but those don't seem very narrative vehicles to me. But
Well, they're narrative if you played like 2, not if you play 9.
yeah, could be like some kind of like Mad Max type, like Escape from the Prison or something. I don't know.
Well, they'd have those vehicles down there, like they're kind of used in the access tunnels to get to different places. So yeah. Right.
So how long before this turns into an arms race where we're actually just building competitive lists at the end to just smash?
Start
Have
to
you met us?
you game.
Yeah, exactly.
Game 2.
You'd be like, all of a sudden, it's like, hey, Phil, like, whatever happened to your whole radiation things? Like, everything's like, no, they're all Mars now, and they do the Mars thing, and Mars. like, you never.
Redcon game 2.
Yeah. Call showed up. He said, you guys, stop doing your radiation thing. Mars now.
Yeah, it's all Mars. You're all part
I
of
mean,
Mars now. Yeah, that's right.
it's a little bit inevitable that we'll get a bit competitive for sure. And obviously, some books are more competitive than others, but new books may come out. And eventually, I mean, the point of it is that we're using it to paint new armies. So we probably will eventually end up with 2,000 point armies. But I think it would be super fun regardless of what happens.
But there's like the whole thing is kind of built like, well, here's the kind of to segue into like how to maybe effectively run these things so they don't end up in like a kind of a escalation of like a weapons race, kind of an arms race. There's stuff like the upgrades for the characters. There's like a good point about this Crusade things that you're as you win, as you compete in battles, you get experience points. As you level up, you can give your units traits. And like if you look at the traits or the weapon enhancements that you can give to these units, there's some that are like kind of that beg to be good. Like let's say for like an Iron Strider Ballistari, like there's one of the traits that you can give to a vehicle that like gives them +1 damage to their things. Like, well, +1 damage on an autocannon thing is kind of good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Or there's
Or when your transport that has 16 stubber shots, if you can give that +1 damage.
Yeah.
Look at me looking for ways
Will
to break the
wins.
game already.
Yeah, exactly.
So without so you could do that. Or you could like what I liked about Blood Bowl is that you would sometimes just roll and you could luck and get you can get lucky and get a better stat or the ability to choose from a better table just by the luck of the draw. So so that might be a thing that we just put in there. Say, look, like when we do the upgrades, we do the roll a d6 and see what you get, and maybe you get +1 movement on a thing that you don't need +1 movement on. Maybe you get something good. So I don't know. We could discuss that as a sort of thing, or do like what they say in the sections, like, well, whatever makes the most narrative sense. Like if you've got a unit that's always aggressively charging everywhere, you're like, well, it makes sense for them to get the +1 to run or whatever. Like it just.
And it does control itself, right? Like, so you don't even have like a warlord trait like to begin with, right? Like, so you got to earn that, and so it does take time to build stuff up, I presume.
Yeah, and you kind of like yeah, you don't start with one, but you kind of do. I mean, we might as well start. Like, I mean, I don't know how in depth you guys want to get about how Crusade works, but essentially you get requisition points at the beginning of the campaign. So when you have 5 to start, and then you would immediately almost spend one of them to give your warlord a warlord trait. So you have like a sort of a pool of points that you can use to do a couple of upgrades before your first battle. And then you basically earn these requisition points after every game, and you can never have more than 5, so you can't stockpile these points.
Okay.
So so I think what makes sense is that you spend maybe 3 of them in the first game to give a couple of upgrades to certain things, and then you save a bunch to do, because it lets you do certain things, like it lets you add units to, like, so when you put your units down on your what they call the order of battle, like your sort of your army roster. If you start with, like, I'm starting with 5 Vanguard, whatever they're called, Skitarii Vanguard, because we're at like low points levels. But eventually, if I want to start adding models to the unit and bump up that unit to 10 or 20 or whatever, you can spend requisition points to like change the amount of models in a unit or change their gear. So it kind of lets you an option to like grow out a unit. But not if a unit's gained too much experience points. So if your little 5-man unit has like 3 upgrades already, you can't just decide, well, this 3-man unit is now like a 20-man unit, and like, so like they don't let you up to a certain point. They don't let you kind of grow your units out. So there's like neat little things that it lets you do.
So we get 5 points even before we start.
Yeah, I think you start with 5. Like you essentially build your roster for the first, it's like first 25 power level of our army. You use those 5 points, probably to give your warlord a trait and probably your artifact, because I think like your they call the artifacts, the war gear or whatever.
Okay.
They're called relics.
Relics, sorry. Yeah,
Artifacts is Sigmar.
Yeah, I know.
Are we going to lose you to Sigmar 3.0 when it comes out, Phil? Are you going to ditch Crusade and go back to Sigmar?
No, he's going to pull us all into Sigmar 3.0 with him.
Plan, yeah. No, I don't have time to like play 2 games anymore. Like,
in 2 months, this is going to be a Path to Glory series.
Yeah.
Roll for dice, and whatever you roll, you have to buy that unit. Like, I always wanted to play that, but you set up your thing, and then you pick a couple of character traits and warlord traits and relics, and then the rest of the points, you probably don't need them, but you do get 1 per game. Whether you win or lose, you always get 1 requisition point. You can't go over 5. In some of the missions, the bonus for winning gets you more requisition points. So there's a couple of neat things about that when you play the different missions. So.
Okay.
I really need to read those rules.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's there's tons of neat stuff that you could, like, obviously like Pasha alluded to, each of the newer books, because I actually went back and dug through my Necron book to see what their special things, and they get access to special requisitions just for the Necrons. You have like those like special flavorful, like they have like their warlords can get different names whenever they win a battle. They get like the Abolisher of Stars, and like they kind of like, it just basically, it's all about like your hero becoming even more full of himself as the campaign.
Yeah, their ego grows.
Yeah.
The ego level up.
Nice.
I think the mechanic is what I heard in the new book. It's that you can kind of combine, like you do some secondary objectives kind of, that you can then combine these things and find weapons and build these new weapons, like upgrades.
Cool.
So you're basically like looking for 3 pieces of things to get a new gun, basically.
So your guys are like basically in Borderlands.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Cool.
Looking for upgrades. So
Okay, so we'll finish off here. When are we going to start? So Francois away for most of July at where he is right now, at the cottage.
Well, I'm gonna come back every once in a while.
Okay. So like we could and COVID precautions and stuff like that. I love how the province just dumped the color thing completely. So probably
So
we're
on
looking.
my side of the river, it's legal to play outside in my backyard starting on Friday.
Yeah. And I think for us, by mid-June, we're probably good for at least 4 people.
I mean, your stay-at-home order, if they reopen the provincial border on June 2nd, which I'm hoping they will, then you guys can just drive over to my place and we can play like June 5. That's a Saturday, I think.
Painting. I have to paint everything. So I have my
I just assumed that I was going to paint like a bunch of witches over 3 days and be ready.
I feel like by mid-June, what would be neat is that we do like I think like Nick mentioned, like kind of a kickoff day where essentially we meet up and then set up 2 tables and then kind of like play
4 games.
Play 4 games and then swap.
Okay. Well,
and I recommend like look at the missions. Like the first 3 missions are basically low point level games. They each have a different bonus for winning, which I think is what makes it valuable to play each mission. Like one lets you have more experience points to to your units. The other one that gets you a free relic. One gets you a free upgrade. So I think what we'd probably do is like do like Nick versus Francois, Darren versus Phil. And then, the winner of that game plays the winner of the other one. So you kind of try to find a way to keep the power levels more or less steady. And then we just play a few games, or we even like play the same mission twice. Like if they're like really low points, we say, well, we'll just play whatever the first mission is 2 times. And then we kind of rack up experience points that way. And
we're going to have to push it a little bit because my weekends are going to be pretty busy packing, but we'll see. We can negotiate.
Whatever works. Yeah, whatever works for. Yeah, that's the key.
So what we're gonna do is one day we're all gonna go to Darren's and quickly throw all of his stuff in boxes and then play.
Oh, I was just thinking kidnap him. I don't really care if he gets packed. We'll just kidnap him.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm in this like Zen state of mind where I can't look forward to things because like the world has a way to like not let you have.
I have 2 games planned for next week because we're reopening over in Quebec.
I have my vaccine booked on the 2nd, so I'm looking forward to that.
I'm going to be allowed to have people over in my backyard again, so I'm playing 2 games next week. It's already planned.
Good for you. Excited for you, but yeah, we'll build it out slow and then try to find these like kind of days where we get a couple of games, and then eventually we'll just like we'll coordinate and make sure that we get. I feel like 2 games a month will probably be like that seems like that would be great if we could, but who knows how much we can actually play. But all
right, cool. So thank you guys for introducing to everybody our Crusade content. So stay tuned for that. And before we go tonight, I want to remind people that Nick is doing his first stream tomorrow night, 7, right? 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
Starting at 7.
Cool.
Or for those of you listening on iTunes and Google Podcasts, that happened last week.
Last week, I did my first stream, and it went awful.
That's because I can't edit this podcast until next Monday.
So Nick is painting Bellicor, and he is trying to use Chimera colors exclusively. That's kind of the semi-challenge. So that will be very interesting to see how he goes on with that. So tune in tomorrow night if you want to see that live. Obviously, it'll be on YouTube afterwards. And otherwise, thank you, Phil, for joining us. And thank you guys, as usual. Thank you, everybody, for following, subscribing, being part of the patrons, supporting, following, everything. And, we will see you guys next week. Well, tomorrow night for Nick, and next week, cast.
Cheers.
All right.
Later, fellas.